Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Miami Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, two of my friends, two of the people I respect most, talking about this game we love and have dedicated a lot of our lives to. On my left, if you're watching on twitch.tv/Miami Heat Beat or on our YouTube channel, it is the great Nekias Duncan of the Dunker Spot podcast, co-hosted by Steve Jones Jr. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. It's been a long time. Excited, or as excited as I can be to talk Heat basketball this year, but excited to talk some Heat basketball with y'all specifically.
Okay.
It's the playoffs. Come on. Let's go. It's the playoffs. Let's have some energy. Let's have some joy. On my right, you know her well, Miami Heat Beat alum, one of the smartest damn people I've ever met, Siobhan Beslow. Siobhan, hi.
Hey, man. What's up? Hello, Nekias. Hello, G. Hi, people. You know, hardly here, but always repping. Miss you guys. Mute G already. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, chat.
We are like 17 seconds in.
Bon always loves when Chat always loves when you come on. They beg for you every week. That it's just Frankie, Lou, and I on the post game. They yearn for you. The audience yearns for Siobhan content, and you're getting it today on the biggest stage here. Listen, Heat Cavs first round series. Miami not really favored. It's gonna be a tough one for them to overcome. But game one was a little rough. But we're here to talk about it. And the first thing I think we want to talk about is the offense. We're going to get into the defense and the adjustments, and we're going to kind of look ahead to what Miami can do, what Cleveland might do. But, guys, I think we have to start with the thing that has really ailed the Heat all season. Their offense just strictly is not good enough, save for some really, really great shooting stretches, like during the 6-game win streak, like kind of ending out the season. They had really hot shooting. Their offense they scored 150, I think, to the Pelicans one night. I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened there, but they have those bursts where their shooting kind of carries them. But this is the playoffs. This is against a really good team. Kenny Atkinson's probably going to win Coach of the Year. Like, they're really good. They're really long. Nekias, the Heat had a 100 and they had a 91 offensive rating in the half court yesterday. Strictly not good enough. Cleveland is not a defensive juggernaut that that is going to put you in your place like that. Miami's pick and roll game, I thought, left a lot to be desired. I think that's where we have to start. They are not getting anything out of their most used action, and it's a spacing issue. Their guards can't beat anybody off the dribble issue. I don't know how this gets fixed.
I think for me, I was annoyed watching the Heat offense. And just looking at the matchups, Cleveland is a better team. I think we can say that. But Miami can find things to poke at. I think once you get into a playoff setting, all you have to do is find a thing or two that you can poke at to make a team uncomfortable. And that's where you gain an edge if you can find one. And as you mentioned, the Heat, as weird as the offense has been this year, if they get the right amount of shooting, they can hang with just about anyone. And we saw a little bit of that in the first half. But for me, it was a spacing issue and it was a utilization issue. I think we're going to get into some broader strokes with lineup stuff, particularly when we get to the defensive side, I imagine. But even offensively, I think if you're going to have Alec Burks on the floor, you're going to have to use him a little bit more than you did in game one, which probably sounds wild on the surface with a team with Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. But I think in general, that's the Darius Garland spot. So if for no other reason than to involve Darius Garland in action, you have to get Alec Burks involved in some kind of way. I think looking at Spectrum, it was 2 pick and rolls ran for Alec Burks. It was 1 rep with him as a screener. And that's just not going to be enough. You're not putting enough pressure on the literal smallest guy on the court for Cleveland. So again, even if it's just let's go double drag, let's use Alec Burks as the first screener, get him to switch on to Tyler Hero, and then let's go into Tyler Bam. Force Darius Garland to navigate, and maybe you have an opportunity to get to some of those pull-ups for Tyler Hero. Can you get the pocket passes to Bam? That's an avenue to try to grease the wheels on that particular point, that particular duo. And then on the spacing front, watching the game live on Sunday, I'm just like, man, Cleveland's done a really good job of kind of setting up their shell. The Heat already aren't a team that accesses the rim at a high level. They're not even really accessing the paint in this game so far. with the way that Cleveland's been able to kind of load up their shell. And kind of zooming out in space, and it's like, okay, they went empty side quite a bit, but Cleveland was able to kind of pre-rotate and load up, and it didn't really matter. And I'm just like, okay, when are they going to flatten this out? When are they going to go with flat spacing? When are they going to clear these wings and let Tyler and Bam, or whatever the pick and roll combination is going to be, when are they going to let those guys get a little bit more room to operate? So, G, if you can quickly pull the clip, just to give you a brief example of what I mean, and you can pause it right about here. And so this is a possession where Tyler misses a shot. But when I say flat spacing, I mean someone in the dunker spot, which the Heat pretty consistently did when they had Khalil Ware and Bam on the floor together. But someone in the dunker spot, both of those corners filled. But look at the left wing and look at the right wing. Plenty of room for Tyler to go to his right hand if he wants to right now. And Bam has plenty of room to roll to his left. And what was happening with the Heat for most of this game was because they'd have someone spaced on the wing, someone spaced on the corner, etc. It wasn't necessarily like a full high tag on Bam on the roll, but like someone was there. And if they had the weak side peel, someone was there. So like Bam was consistently either rolling into a body or rolling into an area that had some congestion in it, or he was immediately met on the catch. Or if Tyler was driving to a side with two, then someone else could kind of creep in. And you don't have a pathway for Tyler to really get going. And I think Tyler is kind of a flawed number one, but he is someone that is comfortable navigating tight quarters. But if you can clear a little bit more space for him, that's where you can get into some of these pull-ups. Like that's a comfortable pull-up shot he can get to. He kind of pump fake to there. You see the rest of the possession. Tyler's going to go to his right. He's going to miss the pull-up. But in terms of that flat spacing, I wish Miami went to that more. Because as I was watching the game back a little bit earlier, I was like, okay, how often did they have someone in the dunker? What were those kind of flat spacing alignments like? I think it was about 10% of their offensive possessions or 10% of their pick and rolls that they had someone in the dunker spot, and that was a little bit below what their regular season average is. And again, specifically clearing both of the wings at the same time, they just really didn't do that. So like that feels like low-hanging fruit to me to kind of open up the Tyler Bam pick and roll in particular. And again, like use Alec Burks as a screener. Get Darius Garland in action and force him to navigate.
Bon, you can jump in on that.
Yeah.
Add a few things, but go.
So to the Alec Burks pick situation, right? I agree. Like use him more as a screener. Use him more kind of in action. Cleveland has a lot of these like big body, motion shootery guards, wings, whatever, but they use them as screeners. They do a lot of exiting stuff, and Miami doesn't have necessarily the stoutness of like Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome, but they do, I think, have the people. And a Duncan and a Alec Burks to be able to simulate, some of those same types of things. I think stretching it out more, but maybe from different areas. If you're not going to kind of do as Nekias said and kind of flatten the pick and roll, and I pulling over there, I love the shout out because rewatching it today, like you said, they did such a good job kind of forming their outer perimeter that. And I think they toggled really well with X big kind of in position, either shading to catch the handler or catch the roller. But either way, there was always someone, near kind of at the elbow, and there was just, just space and or congestion or whatever. I feel like using the people who they have that can clear out and kind of just swipe away, kind of large swaths of defensive presences, the Duncans and kind of the Alex, and Tyler would be more beneficial in those areas. So if he were a better screener, he's so, kind of frail in size that you run into a lot of movement screen, blocking, things like that. But, I agree with Nekias, and it's tough because you opened up, G, with saying, Cleveland isn't, this, I guess, juggernaut defensively, but they are long and they're active enough and they move well. Their help is big. Their help is big, and when they want to play big, it's felt a lot of times. And we'll get into our defense a little bit later. But when we are in maybe let's say one of our longer lineups, we don't really present big. We don't really present long. We don't really have hands in lanes that would do a lot of dissuading. So. It's tough. I think it's just a lot of kind of manufacturing motion. The guys, you're right. They went to some empty side stuff, and it just seemed like it didn't really matter. They did some of their like double drag stuff up top, and it didn't really seem like it pulled anything in any particular way. They got some kind of like high-low sharing every now and then, but it didn't feel present enough for me. I don't know. I just think that they have to move bodies in a way that actually pulls and opens up some space. But I think it's tough to do.
I disagree with Nekias. I don't think Alec Burks can play in this series, and I think everything that you ask Alec Burks to do, I think you can ask Duncan Robinson to do. Alec Burks played like 16 minutes, and Duncan played 14. I don't know why Duncan can't play 22, and then you give the rest of those reps to Davion, Tyler, whatever. I defensively rewatching, I don't think anybody was worse than Alec Burks. Tyler is a guy that got picked on like on social media and everything. He's a high profile guy, but Alec Burks straight up, there were possessions I had no idea what he was doing. And on offense, I think if he's not shooting the ball a lot, then like what are you doing? I think specifically they play him as a starter because they need ball handling with the second unit. And I understand that by Spo because Jovic has been hurt. And I don't really see how much Kyle Anderson can play in this series. Also, and again, we're talking about cutting. They already have a short rotation, and we're talking about shortening it even more. But I think everything you said I agree with, but I just think like that could be Duncan Robinson. I think that Duncan Robinson and Tyler can do a lot of what you're asking. And I think specifically in the second half, in that little run, kind of to end the third, start the fourth, I thought you saw Duncan doing those things. I thought you saw some of that inverted pick and roll. Didn't see a ton for Wiggins, but for Bam, Duncan even screened for Bam one possession. Bam turned it over. Mitchell kind of reached his hand in and got a steal. But I mean, you get that mismatch. I think you know, and Bam kind of flowed into the middle of the paint. That's a possession that you like if you're Miami, and they never really went to that again. I think you saw, and Frankie and I went over this last night. Duncan Robinson comes off a screen. Cleveland's sending two. You know, they're sending help. That's still a problem. And I think that the Cleveland's going to be content defending Burke one-on-one. And I think they live with the result. And I think if you're the Heat, you need a couple things to go your way. One, you need to really boost up your three-point attempts. They just did. I think Cleveland shot 12 more attempts than they did. I don't think that's good enough. If you're the Heat, they're better than you. You need a knockout punch. And one of the ways you could do that is shooting more. And I think you run your inverted stuff. You have your guard screen pop out. We see how the Warriors do it. We see how Duncan Robinson does it a lot. I think Tyler can do it a little more. So I don't super disagree with what you're saying. I just don't really know if it's Alec Burks. And I know you prefaced it by saying if Alec Burks is going to play this series, then that I just don't. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he'll survive.
I think that's fair. And I guess jumping ahead, like I don't. Like when Steve and I did the brief preview we did before the matchups were confirmed, I'm just like, winners might be going to press the let's get Alec Burks out of start lineup button. Like they've had success with the starting lineup in general, but like if you're facing Cleveland, like you just need to be able to allocate guys to Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And I think if you're going to have Burks in the lineup and you're going to stay big with Bam and Khalil Ware, unless you're going to get really funky with like Bam on Mitchell, so you could turn some of those things into switches. And you're going to have Burks on like Evan Mobley and pray that Mobley doesn't put him underneath the basket as he's improved as a driver and stuff. Like you're just drawing dead early on. So like to that point, I agree with you.
That seems like that seems like a late series adjustment anyway. Like if you have like what you're saying.
Yeah. That's getting into break glass territory.
Yeah. So that's what, like, for me, like I was entering the series again, asking, okay, are they just going to start Davion now? Like, let's put Wiggins on one of the guards. Let's put Davion on the other guard. You can put Tyler on Max Strus or whoever they start in that third spot, and then you kind of flow from there. And I don't know if Spo is going to bend on that heading into game 2. Like maybe when this shifts back to Miami, maybe that's when we see a lineup change, if I had to guess. But again, if you're going to stick with that, you got to make the Alec Burks offense worth it, because to your point, the defense was not very enjoyable. We'll put it that way. And so it's just like, okay, you gotta offset it some kind of way. Like he's got to get shots, or you got to use him to feed you the matchups you want.
And G, I'm with you. Like for the things that you can do with Alec, Duncan is there to do and probably do better for you. But it's the added benefit of being able to deploy same types of actions, but on both sides of the floor and at the same time. They're at any point able to run Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill off of the same pin downs, off of all of the same floppy looking things, and pull in dynamic ways, kind of defensive attention. And yeah, we have Duncan and yes, like you said, they're still fire drilling. They're still throwing two. They sent an aggressive 2 one time. Duncan knew it, gave a quick little fake. Duncan? The little push ahead, and those things are still happening, and you just become more dynamic once you have someone else opposite wing, someone else more capable opposite corner, so that you're actually still pulling that space. I'm with you, because the defense hasn't been great. If you're going to use it for offensive purposes, you got to kind of like kind of use it. And I think the Duncan stuff too, like do more kind of slingshotty stuff. Like I'm with all of his action, kind of at the stripe and higher, but I think there's space to kind of maybe start him lower, see if you can get some congestion off of maybe some tight curling, some twirl, some floppy looking types of things from beneath the basket, kind of slingshotting out, and see if you can, big horn some verticality that way.
They were running double drag a lot, and which it's funny because Cleveland was killing them with that, and they would just
easily
putting Tyler or Burke in the fucking blender every
hell,
time.
yeah.
And somebody, Nekias, you had tweeted out earlier, like, oh, Miami's doing some late switching. I think that was completely emergency. That was not like where is doing late switching. And I was like, that's because like everybody's messing up, and it's like, guys. So I liked when Miami did it with Robinson. I liked when Bam brought the ball up in the second half too. Like Bam would bring the ball up, Robinson would come down and pin down, and then they would start something, and then Bam would kind of flow. And then I think that they need to move a lot. I think that Cleveland is too big, and Miami's not. These guys are not beating people off the dribble. I think Davion's the only one, which is really funny. Like Donovan Mitchell is playing Tyler Hero, I think, pretty aggressively when he guards him, and like this, the guards I think Cleveland is playing like really up on the shooters. And I think that, I don't know if they're more concerned about the pull-ups because of their bigs and drop, but I feel like Hero is having a hard time turning that corner when they're so close because he doesn't have that foot speed. He doesn't have that first step. So I think it's just like kind of like shrunk their offense. And I think, you kind of see when they're moving, when they're grooving, when guys are screening off ball, when they're inverted stuff or whatever, like that's when they flow. And guys, to your other point about the guy in the dunker spot, that was actually something I thought was interesting, where I actually didn't like when I saw them do stuff like that, because I thought the Allen help was really bothering Hero. And I think that floater that he's taken, Cleveland is loading up on the strong side of the ball, meaning that the weak side corner is open. And typically when they're running Hero wear pick and roll, Bam's in that weak side corner. And that's something that I think Miami needs to explore. They need to make that pass. And I know that's easier said than done with the length in the trees, but Tyler, when they're not going to win, because like we can say amongst us and amongst an analyst, like, oh, Miami's going to try to make this a series. They're not talking about trying to make it a series in the locker room. They're talking about how they're going to win the series. So if I'm like a coach and if I'm Spo and if I'm talking about winning the series, you need to explore that pass to that weak side corner. And not that you want Bam shooting a ton of those, although I do think he'll make more. I think he was 1 of 5 or something in game one. I think you could do stuff like what the Heat did against Denver, where you do have a big in the weak side corner. And when Jimmy would make that pass, then they would flow into a handoff with the guy on the wing, right? That's something that the Warriors do a lot with Draymond Green. Jokic has done it some. I think that's a way you can kind of hit two of your win conditions, get more threes, and really kind of manipulate the help. Because I think Cleveland has done a great job. They have Max on weak side corner, which means Tyler is the weak side help as a guard. I've said this a lot. That's not Kyle Lowry. Those are not quick hands. That is not a guy. I say it all the time, bro. I miss him so much. That stuff matters. And I think that they have Mobley stationed on the wing, which means that Bam can't help. You know what I mean? Like Bam cannot. The help at the nail is just really non-existent for Miami. So if you're the Heat, and you see what Cleveland's doing on the other end, you gotta do the same. You gotta configure your offense to manipulate their help. And if they're giving you something, what do coaches always say? Take what the defense gives you. That's one place that I think that they can eat from. Go ahead, guys.
Oh, I was going to say quickly 2 things on that front, G. Like, I think, one, you brought up the nail help for Miami. I wish there was more of it. And again, we're going to get to the defense. But to that point on the Heat offense, like, Cleveland was just kind of parking someone to nail. Again, kind of builds right back into their shell. Like, where were the like, one of the things I brought up on the Duncan spot very early on this
doing
year.
That, by the way. Max was really impactful with what you're saying.
That he was. And, like, one of the things I brought up earlier this year on the Duncan spot, quick plug, I was like, hey, I've been yelling, and I know Frankie in particular has been yelling a lot about, hey, when are the Heat going to set more flares? When are they going to set more pin-ins? When are they going to do stuff
more
on the
hammers?
Yeah. And one of the things I know earlier is like
hammer.
One of the things I know this year is like, hey, look who, I think it's like a month in. It's like, hey, look who's leading the NBA in pin-ins and flare set per game. I was like, hey, look at the Heat actually doing the thing. It didn't feel like they tapped that button enough. in game one. And I think if you're not going to flatten the spacing, if you are going to go empty side, you got to have something happening to kind of remove the nail or engage the that's a tremendous shot. But you got to have something to engage the nail. Like toss in the cut behind the nail, which I think
who does that?
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson.
Yeah. But like do something to engage the nail on that front. And then back to the go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted to jump in with you because I fully agree, and that's kind of what I was going to say too. Back to the PJ hammer, the PJ pin in, all of that stuff. Gee, if you're talking about, you know, your weak side big is Bam, and to the point about just starting the presence in the dunker spot, we are also a really good like baseline running team. We are starting to, but it's typically it's one of the wings, right? It's not Khalil, it's not Bam, it's either Haywood or you know, back Jimmy back in the day, Dwayne, LeBron, all of those like baseline sneaking in from and receiving passes from opposite 45.
Uncle
if you're having Bam kind of just stationary in your weak side corner and there is no flares to the corner, then yeah, it has to be something from one of the other ways, kind of just pulling some attention.
I think that's important. The other kind of thing that I think I would like them to look at is Mitchell Bam pick and roll, and this is via Cooper Moorhead. They ran 17 of those, and they got a shade under a point per possession. They got 0.92. I thought it looked really good. I thought Davion was the only guy consistently getting into the paint, and he created a ton of looks for them. There was one position where he kind of does a little Steve Nash, and Bam kind of flies in at the elbow and takes a really nice jump shot. I mean, I just thought they generally got good things. I think, you know, we haven't talked a ton about, other than the flat stuff, how Hero can get going more. But I do think that starting Davion, you know, we'll kind of transition to defense too. But that's, you know, you kind of get a little bit more juice in pick and roll. I think you get a little bit more playmaking. I think he's underrated as a playmaker. And I think, you know, you kind of get Tyler off ball a little bit. And I actually don't think that's bad in this series, because if Cleveland, you can put Tyler on the weak side, and if they're going to overhelp, that's a knockdown shooter that can do something. Or, you know, Nekias, we used to always talk about the Josh Richardson can't bend the defense, but can attack a bent defense. Tyler is the best guy on the team attacking bent defense.
Shit.
You know, he and Wiggins, I don't think he and Wiggins are bending shit, but boy, do they really thrive when other dudes are doing it. You know, we haven't talked about Andrew. I mean, they're leaving post-ups and a bunch. I mean, there's just so much to get to, but yeah, I don't know. That was just kind of blah of their offense. I don't know if you guys have more to say on that.
I'd say very quickly on the Davion front, one, I'll echo your sentiments. Just having a guard that can get 2 feet in the paint, especially with how Cleveland wants to load up, just feels important. And I think the kind of annoying thing is I'm like quickly looking through the Davion pick and rolls specifically right now. It's very funny that like their best spacing concepts came with Davion. So I wonder like how much that factors into that number being where it was compared to some of the other guards. It's like the Spain reps,
the smaller,
like the Spain reps came from Davion as the ball handler. Like they were going single pick and roll with the guy kind of lifting from the corner, just kind of stationed on the wing, so that corner was empty, and so you're opening up a little bit more space for Bam if he rolls past that wing. They could just do some of that with Tyler.
I would like handler, you said that Tyler screened a lot in Spain too, and I would like to see him get the ball off that, because I thought a lot of those possessions were a little bit dead, and I think they need to kind of make it a focus, because I did think he got kind of open on that stuff, and I think again we talk about getting more threes. That's a really great way to do that. And I think especially if Cleveland's going to kind of collapse the way that they are, you know, I mean, Andrew, pretty much almost all his field goals came from just, they were super collapsed and he's just there. Hi guys, which want him to get more involved. I guess we can close with him. And I'm
one more thing really quick, spacing before you close with Andrew, especially to the smaller lineups. I feel like they aren't moving as cleanly as they should. Like they're getting in their kind of initial sets, and a lot of times they kind of float through whatever it is the route or kind of the path into the next step of the flow is. And there was a possession Davion had in the left slot, and Haywood and Wiggins were both kind of the right corner, and Jared Allen is in the vicinity of guarding kind of Haywood, but his back is turned, and Haywood floats up the sideline first before kind of cutting over into the space kind of where the stripe is. And it's just a cleaner cut rather than kind of just running up Jared's back, and now I'm sensing you're pulling my attention. I'm kind of able to move with you. If they can find little pockets to be kind of tighter and more crisp in and out of, kind of their routes in the traffic on the inside, I think that they will find, areas for maybe more push shots. I agree with you on the Tyler floater. That's a little bit different. And Jared is timing and contesting that really well. Is really, really causing Tyler to short arm a lot of stuff. But there is space to be cleaner in and out of their flow. And I think kind of settle in a couple of pockets and make good decisions in there.
I think one of the things that they could do is kind of stretch the pick and roll a little bit, kind of higher screen.
Yes.
I do think that, there was a possession where Tyler, I think Allen had a switch mid possession on Hero, and he was able to kind of get in the paint and really work the possession and got kind of a little bit of duck in, kind of nice open shot in the middle of the paint, right below the free throw line. And I'm like, yeah, they could do that a little more. So when that help steps up, I think Hero, you're crafty enough. That's not a place where you really need speed. You kind of need to kind of slither around the big.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that he can do. You can kind of make that pass to Ware, who's in the dunker spot, so you don't have to make the more complicated cross-court pass to the big. And listen, they're not super crashing the offensive boards anyway. So, like you gotta get, your paint chances when you can and all that stuff. Andrew Wiggins, Nekias, I have been very publicly not a fan. Not his fault that he got traded for a guy that is tearing up, a Western Conference team. I miss him so much. He and Draymond are best friends. It's the SpongeBob meme. I'm Squidward watching Seth Draymond, and I'm just so sad every time I see him.
Perfect chaos.
I'm wearing Big Face right now. I will be wearing it the rest of the playoffs because God, I miss him, and God, I love that coffee. But they have Wiggins here, who's supposed to be kind of a wing scorer, switch buster, if you will. And I would like to see them do more inverted screens, whether it be Burke, as you mentioned earlier, Hero, Duncan, Davion, whoever. I think they need to punish the Cavs for playing Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Lord knows we've watched a lot of playoff runs where we've been the beneficiary of watching Jimmy Butler pick on poor Kemba Walker, I'm not gonna say poor Drew Holiday, but we saw how that went for that young man.
The poor Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, the poor one-seeded Milwaukee Bucks with arguably one of the greatest players ever. So I think they need to do that, and I don't think Wiggins can do it at the volume that Jimmy can, and he certainly can't do it off the dribble, put his shoulder into you, Kawhi Leonard, big boy body you. But I do think that there's some posting up stuff that they could do. I like his side pick and roll with Bam. There were a few possessions where he's very capable of making that pass in the pocket. He can shoot off the dribble a little bit. I do think that that's somewhere he needs to be more involved. If they're going to win this series, he just cannot be first half, second half ghost. He needs to be, I need you like 22 a game, buddy. I need you engaged, start to finish. I need them points spread out. Like when
I need you at least around 18. At least around 18.
He's like he's like seasoning, but like really close to the meat. You got to season high so that it spreads all over. He's just like seasoning just the first quarter. And then we have a pretty bland piece of meat. The rest, that's Andrew Wiggins.
It's just a really salty one bite.
Yeah. Overly salty. You're like, that's a lot of Andrew Wiggins. And then back end is just, there's just nothing. It's a little undercooked,
Add some water to that. Spread that out.
Yeah, exactly. No sear. That's where I am with Andrew Wiggins, guys.
No, I think to your point, 9 pick and rolls for Andrew Wiggins in game one, which to your point, it's funny, like at least how I've been trying to absorb the Andrew Wiggins experience from Miami, which he's been in and out of the lineup. Other guys have been in and out of the lineup. He's very much been trying to find himself. There were pockets during the regular season as he was trying to ramp up and find his way in the offense where it's like, ooh, this just feels like a whole lot of Andrew Wiggins. This is just him in a vacuum, some pick and roll, some mid-post ISOs. Like this is just a lot. And then you have the game like game one where, again, 9 pick and rolls, I think is over 1.4 points per possession on those trips. It's just like, well, you could probably get to that a little bit more. I think you need more Andrew Wiggins. There's your duh analysis of the day. They do need to be intentional about how they're getting him his touches and where they're getting him his touches, because you don't want it to turn into the freelance Andrew, please create everything for yourself because we need buckets. Because I don't think that's him. He's he's a step above only attack tilted defenses because he does have some self-creation to him, but it can't just be Jimmy Butler for us, because I don't think that's a fair expectation for him.
Somewhere in between Brandon Ingram and Jimmy Butler. Apologies to Siobhan.
Oh no, I don't take it disrespectfully. I kind of agree.
Brandon Ingram's probably better than he is right now.
I'm weak. No, I'm with you. A step above, like, not attacking only bent, but like maybe it needs a little bit of a little bit to it. I think that there's space on the wing to play him. He has a pretty really good first step, and it's usually pretty well controlled. And so I think there's space again, cutting from and receiving passes from opposite 45 baseline drives, cutting, being the baseline runner. I think that there is space. I think he has the body type to be in those lower pick and roll things and the side pick and roll, and even the lower middle ball screen stuff. I think that you can get him at least pried open a little bit. And someone like a Tyler and the Davion in the shoulders, I would have, much rather more of those reps kind of come, further extended. But I think that there is space in the connector area for him to kind of be in some step ups. I think you can get him in some Spain stuff and not looking to him to be the shooter coming out of those back screens, but just to get some kind of motion and some charge and some energy into his body and into his path. The very dull analysis. You're going to need him to give you something and have pockets of punch offensively. But I'm very much with the both of you in that it has to come in ways that feel structured, at least from the middle up, and then like the middle down to the baseline. It can be kind of some secondary penetration, some tertiary stuff if need be.
Fifth in usage for the night for Miami. I just think
it's got to be in like third, fourth. I don't
yeah,
because Davion. What's Davion's?
Davion was higher. Davion was third, I believe. Third after Hero and Bam. Duncan fourth. Andrew Wiggins fifth. I do think that Wiggins needs to be a little bit. And I guess, like I said, Nekias, cited the metrics. I mean, shot well from the field, and I think there's did not. Yeah, he did shoot well from the field. You clearly see the impact, and I think not to say Andrew Wiggins needs to be more involved, but Andrew Wiggins needs to be more involved. They really depend on him, and I think that Miami needs to punish Cleveland's weaker players, as we've I think that's been the theme. It's just like Miami has let those guys off the hook. I don't know if it was like, well, if we let your guys off the hook, will you let our guys off the hook? I don't know what that thinking was, but that's kind of where we are. I think that's kind of all for offense. I think Bam is really good. Give him the ball. Don't know if he'll shoot that well on mid-range jumpers again in the series, but golly, was he good? More short roll stuff, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk some defense, because Cleveland leading, Cleveland somehow, Miami has the worst defensive rating in the playoffs, which is truly something spectacular considering the Memphis Grizzlies played. And I think we all saw that public execution.
Something spectacular.
It was so bad. That was so bad that Zach Lowe didn't even talk about the series. He just talked about Memphis' season being over. It was just 15 minutes of him and Howard Beck, eulogizing the Grizzlies. And somehow the Heat's defense came out worse. Cleveland, they had a 142 offensive rating, Cleveland did, and a 127 offensive rating Cleveland did in the half court. That's just too good. If you're Miami, there's no way on earth that you beat that. 45% of Cleveland's shots were 3-point attempts, and they shot 42% from them. And most of their threes were non-corner threes. So Miami did what Miami does. You're not getting the easy corner three. We're going to force you to make the extra pass. They're going to contest. And Cleveland still shot the exact same percentage that Miami did, except shot like 12 more threes. We start with the starting lineup, which, by the way, the proposed starting lineup that I think every Heat fan wants, which is Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Khalil Ware, and Andrew Wiggins, did not log a single minute last night, which I thought was surprising, but also very Eric Spoelstra. That lineup is like minus 1.3 or something in that rating in the regular season. Understandably, as Nekias talked about, there have been a lot of lineup inconsistencies, and I don't think those guys have had a ton of time to play together. But I think on paper, if you're talking about how can they best win this series, I do think that that's a decision that needs to be made. I don't really know what else. Now, maybe, they start in a weird world, Pell Larson or something, and then they still bring Davion off the bench. Don't think that's going to happen. But there's not a lot of moves to be played here, right? Miami has, everybody knows their pieces, and that's the one very obvious move that I think will come this series. Don't know if it'll be game 2, but I think it will come. I think we're all in agreement that should happen tomorrow.
Yeah, like if I were Eric Spoelstra, which I am very clearly not, like Alec, you come sit next to me. Davion, you go into the starting lineup. Like I think in general, like the two spots that you're looking at in the starting lineup, it's Alec Burks and it's Khalil Ware. And like,
I'm so glad you said that.
Because like quiet is kept. I mean, you mentioned Alec Burks.
Big man Twitter's not gonna like you.
Oh, man.
And that's that's fine. And like shout out to Khalil Ware, but it's just like, hey man, if Jared Allen's just gonna beat you up on the glass.
Yeah. What else?
And the screening is what it is, and like the dunker spot presence is what it is. So your early point, Siobhan.
Yeah, like it in 20 minutes.
Like if it's not gonna be that, then like we got to get the juice somewhere. Like there's room if you want to downsize, you want to go Bam at the 5. Okay, let's bring in Kyle Anderson. Wasn't that great either, but like at the very least, conceptually, here's a big body that can defend one of those bigs and can be used as a
Nikola Jovic is available. I just want to
that's the other question.
He is.
I didn't even mention him offensively because I don't think that they're gonna play him. But I mean,
I don't. But he is available, and that is a move. When you said there's not many moves, that is a one. I don't know if that's break glass territory also. But I think that you get juice, and that gives you some length still.
No, I think that's fair. If he's healthy enough and supposed to trust him enough, like that's a move there. You can go him, you can go Anderson. If you want to downsize, go Haywood Highsmith, you could. But those are the two spots. Like Alec Burks is pretty obvious. If you want to go with more point of attack defense, then I think you go Davion over Alec Burks. I mean, you could swap out both of those spots if you want. If you want to go Davion to Highsmith and Haywood, excuse me. For those guys, let's get all the defense around. Let's cross match how we want to. Let's lean more into the switching, and now we kind of unlock some of the random cutting and some of the random pin ins. You get more rim pressure with Davion Mitchell. Like you have buttons to press and levers to pull, but I don't think this starting lineup is tenable against Cleveland. Like I don't expect a 140 something offensive rating, which very quickly, and I mean this half jokingly, did Cleveland have the higher offensive rating than OKC because like cleaning the glass obviously takes out garbage time because garbage time could have just started like mid second quarter? Did that just disrupt things?
So Cleveland had the best offensive rating of the playoffs so far. Oklahoma City's not even second. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
They did light up the Lakers.
They did. Made me so happy. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
That team can't defend anybody. And I'm just happy to see it. I'm happy to see it. So Cleveland posted the best offensive rating of the playoffs so far, which, by the way, Miami has a higher offensive rating than the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs, for all we lamented. So,
that series is so good.
Real hoops is so back.
It's bad. But yeah, please change that starting lineup, Miami. I don't think that's
come on, Eric.
You can't do that.
Bond, we're in agreement, right? Like that's just the obvious move. At least Davion, to start, and then I actually have a question for both of you. Bond, we can start with you. When I talked to Justin Rowan to preview the series, the matchups I wanted Davion Mitchell on Donovan Mitchell, and I wanted Andrew Wiggins defending Darius Garland. That's not what happened, and I felt going in that I don't view Davion as a very quick lateral. I mean, he's quick, but he's not I don't think he's as quick as Darius Garland. And I just think that you're going to lose that foot race every time. And I think with Wiggins, at least you put some size and you kind of give him that uncomfortable look. A lot of people on Twitter completely disagreed with me. They said the opposite. And I just think Donovan Mitchell has a lot of strength. You even saw against Haywood Highsmith. That dude, he armed him, bro. There were possessions that Haywood did a really good job and Donovan was able to kind of squeak by with craft and strength. And I just think that putting the stronger guard on Donovan, who is kind of similar body type, and you kind of put the size on Darius Garland, who in my opinion is their most important offensive player. He is their engine. He kind of gets them going. I think he's their main ball handler that gets them into stuff. Donovan's obviously their best player this season, but that's how I felt, Bon. And I was wondering kind of how you viewed that, because I think that's a lever to push as well defensively. And then you have Hero on Strus or whatever.
So you said that isn't what happened. Who do you have being the matchups, at least to?
That's what I want.
Just so I know, but who? What were the matchups to begin with? Just so that I make sure we are
You're asking like what were the actual matchups or what do I
Yes,
want?
because it was Andrew on Donovan, right? And
Andrew
then
on Donovan, and then they had
They had Hero on
yeah,
Garland.
they had Hero to start on
Hero
him, and then
on
they had
Darius,
Alec
yeah.
Burke on
Max.
Strus, and
Yeah.
then Bam on Mobley. Which, by the way, the other thing that was annoying is if you put Hero on Strus, what you force Cleveland to do is now you're making Max Strus just screen more, and you're running more of your offense through Max Strus screening, which means that one of your bigs is more free to help, which is just a win for me. And I know that they got good looks out of Max Strus screening and double drag or whatever, but that was just one side thing. But yeah, Bond, that those are the matchups to start the game. And then I don't remember many. I think there were like a couple possessions where Davion defended Garland, but it wasn't a lot.
I think that I would agree. Or at least conceptually, put in Davion on Donovan. I think I don't know whether or not I feel Davion lacks. You say he lacks lateral quickness to you?
I just don't view him as that was a poor way to put it. I don't think he's as fast as Garland, and I just think that you're just signing him up to lose in a foot race every time.
Yeah, I agree. I think you give him more of a chance to either stay connected, get back in front, make a play on the ball, make a wrap up with someone, with putting him on Donovan. I think, but Donovan is still he's so strong. He's so good with the ball. He was attacking from the left wing one time, and he's attacking at the elbow, and whoever's defender is cuts him off, kind of jumps his right leg, and the backwards between the leg, using
that was Haywood
as the shield to get it back, just stuff like that, so quick, so tight. So yeah, I feel the Andrew on Darius bit too. My only concern then is I don't know that I have maybe seen enough of Andrew in recovery, because I think Darius is quick enough to still get past Andrew's hip. And then you're utilizing length in the arms and in a chase type of situation. So I don't know what you really end up there, but I think it's worth a look. I don't think there's anything that's realistic that's not worth a look.
Okay.
I'm with you, G, because one, I was anticipating we see Davion in the starting lineup to start this series, and I would have went Davion on Donovan. You just get the D Mitchell matchup, and that's just cool to me.
Come on, Eric,
just do it.
Give us something, you know what I mean? But no, I do like the length on Garland point, which, to his credit, one of the 18,000 things he's just done much better this year compared to last year as he's healthier and more confident, etc. He has gotten better at dealing with length off and on the ball. So that's not necessarily
a win for Miami.
A guarantee that is just going to work. Yeah. But conceptually, I do still like it. You turn more of those Garland pick and rolls into switches, ideally. My concern with Davion, and I'll get the hat tip to Steve real quick, because he's noted plenty of times, hey, as feisty as Davion could be on the ball, when he is not having to get into someone's jersey, he does rest a little bit. And I think Donovan, he's really good at relocating around actions. And I do wonder, if Davion, Donovan starts an action, he gets to his jersey, blows up pick and roll, Donovan passes the ball, goes to the wing. Davion wants to park it to nail. Donovan could be anywhere after that. And I do wonder,
you're not wrong, but it's a fucking playoff, man.
It is.
Up. You know what? Let's be honest. You're not going to be here for another series. Yeah. Get your cardio in, 1, 2, 3, Fiji, and, enjoy.
So I think that would be some of the hesitation to going with that matchup alignment, but ultimately I still think it's worth it. I think you want to bother try to tire out. And then the other benefit to going Wiggins on Garland in particular is that if you do get a miss or Darius Garland tries to get into a step back or something, you're getting into the transition game where Darius Garland now has to pick up Andrew Wiggins. Can you get some quick transition attacks there? Can you get some quick duck ins, get in some easy ones to where you're not having to force feed some half court touches to Andrew? Let's get him in the flow, get him going early, and then those half court touches feel a little bit more fruitful. So that could be a side.
Maybe you get Darius in foul trouble in open court.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Spo pulls the switch everything alarm and we go there?
At some point,
serious.
I guess at some point I don't want to.
I do think switch and swarm. If they really, if what we're talking about right now doesn't work, I think that's viable. That's probably a look ahead, and I know that we're running low on time. Want to get to two more things defensively as we get out of here. He played zone that second half. Zone mixed bag. They played it a little bit to end the third, and then at the start of the fourth, Nekias, you provided the numbers, 1.2 points per possession per second spectrum. I don't know how viable that's going to be, and I think part of that was Jerome absolutely shredding them. And I don't know if he's gonna keep doing that. He might, who knows? But yeah, I do think that they should look at it, but I do it precariously. I think lately in the playoffs, it's just not been very good. And I know that they play a ton of zone, and in the regular season, you're good. In the regular season, it had some success, but I think in the playoffs, pretty much since Lowry, Tucker, Butler are not here anymore, I do think that zone has and Martin, it has way less umph in a playoff series, especially when coaches and Max Strus, by the way, and guys, I don't know if you knew this, in Siobhan, I talked to Bob Schmidt of Cleveland Radio, and he was telling me how Max Strus teaches Heat zone. He runs the zone practices in Cleveland to teach them Miami zone, which I thought was really cool. So they are extremely familiar with it. I don't know. I don't know how viable it's going to be for long stretches, maybe to hide some hero Duncan lineups, but I don't know what you guys think about that.
Vaughn. All right, so yeah, I want to share my screen really quick. I have the one play I wanted to look at with their zone pulled up. I don't like when it's aligned as this kind of 1-3-1. They will stack their top two guards a lot, and all of that does is, yes, Cleveland will station someone at the stripe, but then they just bring that person high, and now all you're doing is kind of just widening up what is already a really, really kind of stretched out thing. I much rather kind of prefer when they, or at least like you said, since losing the personnel that kind of like really, really helped juice what it is they wanted to do in the zone, I appreciate more. And that was the change when they went into the fourth. They started to they stopped stacking that like the lead two and playing them more. It's just kind of a two-guard front. And so you're already matched up, and you're not pulling in like vacuuming out the belly of the zone, which is already vulnerable. And then you have guys like Ty and Sam who are stout presences and kind of can just sit in and pick apart what it is that is given to them. I think if they go zone, I really, really don't like when they present it, like I said, as this kind of, just really spaced out 1-3-1. Damn, I really want to share my screens, right? But yeah.
Nekias, what do you got on their zone before I ask you about hedging really quick?
I think this is one of those things where, like, do you start the game with zone just to throw Cleveland's opening setup? Like, it feels like we start the quarter, let's throw you off. Or you've scored on 2 of the last 3 possessions, let's sprinkle it in here. To your point, like, I don't know if you can go 5, 6, 7 possessions in a row like you would during a regular season game where you're making a run or you're just being mean to somebody. I think if Max Strus is actually teaching the darn thing at a certain point, that plus the talent gap, I don't know how often you can actually go to it. So like sprinkle it in just to kind of throw them off rhythm and then get back into your switching and stuff. But that's kind of go ahead.
My fault. Last thing too about their zone in that kind of like 1-3-1 alignment, Bam doesn't leave the middle, and so they weren't really dotting Miami's eye from the corner threes, but they got a lot of kind of and some of it was just a lack of discipline and just kind of just I don't know, like effing around, but they were able to move and get kind of just a quick back and forth, one pass away from the 45 to the corner or in reverse when they wanted to. And it was hard to, stick and move between the two.
Absolutely. Nekias, and Abban, we'll close the show with you. Same question. I think there should be an emphasis on Miami's end on hedging the guard in the pick and roll when guys like Hero, Duncan, Burks are targeted. Keith Smith tweeted out that Garland, Mitchell and Ty Jerome targeted Hero on 36 possessions, and the Cavs as a team scored 64 points on those 36 possessions, which is pretty. You're not going to win. Yeah. You're not going to win games like that. And there were a couple times that Hero hedged and showed really hard, and I thought Duncan did a really good job of that too, which is why I didn't think Duncan was like super picked on. I mean, obviously he has those ticky-tack fouls, but I think hard show is probably your best bet for now. I think that they need to go to it a little bit more. The stop switching, I don't like. I just don't think that you can give Cleveland that so easy. I think they need to be way more disciplined when that double drag comes. They need to know, you can't be surprised. You need to know where your man is. You need to fight around your screen. You cannot just give them a switch off that because you're a little confused. And I think so many times Cleveland's running that and Miami's kind of coming out confused, and all of a sudden heroes on Donovan, and you're just like, and
it's the switch pattern changes in that. Sometimes the switches between the 1 and 3. Sometimes it's between
not
2
consistent.
and 3.
It's not. So obviously it's harder to hedge those, but I think in general, Nekias, I think that they should those guys should hard show a lot more. Miami has a propensity not to do that. Don't understand why. I think it's worked when they've done it, so that's kind of where I'm at.
I think there's room to sprinkle it in. I think you would probably want to confine that to when you have Bam and Khalil on the floor together, especially with the way that Cleveland likes to empty aside and kind of work, especially with those, even with those double drag looks.
Yeah.
We'll clear aside, make sure that we're slipping to that wing. Now they're picking that guy, second guy's diving, the guy's on the wing, you don't have a tag in the corner, stuff like that. So if you have both bigs on the floor, you can at least try to shrink the floor a little bit if you're going to try to blitz that first one. If you're talking double drag or even just traditional pick and roll.
Gotta make it hard. You just can't give them the same look every time. I just thought that Cleveland was just getting the same thing. And I'm like, you just can't. It's not a video game. You cannot, it's not a program that you know exactly how to manipulate the RNG. You have to, you are the maker of your own demise, Miami Heat. You are the architects of your loss. Come on, Bond, what you got on hedging?
Yeah, I'm with the sprinkling in. What I don't like is I don't like committing to the double. I think because of that, I've watched Donovan just keep his dribble and that whip back to the wing from which he kind of just left it's there, it's wide open. I think I agree with Nekias in that if you're going to do a lot of the hedging, you want to make sure that you are, kind of able to do it with someone in a band, but you also have, backside presence. Your slip, it becomes, a lot easier. They have really slip, lob, springy, mobile guys in their short roll and stuff. But I do think that you need to present something different, at the mesh point. Otherwise, I think that at some point they have to dictate something, and maybe it isn't for consistent stretches. Maybe it's 3 of 5 plays. Maybe it's in chunk of plays, but at some point they have to be the initiator in what is kind of about to happen, so that they can then comport their rotations and shit thereafter.
Frankie's in chat saying 100% Bond. Otherwise, you're at their mercy.
The whole game,
and
just in chase and in rotation the whole time.
I think they have to take risks, and we can end with this. But I do think they have to take risk. And one of the things Frankie and I talked about yesterday was, okay, Bam, you're gonna have to take some risks off. You're gonna have to help more. I know that you want to stay. I think Miami kind of stayed home on Mobley for the most part, and I think if you're Bam, you got to take more chances. You got to make yourself felt at the nail. You have to be a better helper. And if that guy's gonna beat you, that guy beats you. But I think that we know that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are going to cook these guards. I think we've seen it enough. So I do think that you have to dictate your own terms of engagement, to borrow a term from the great Zach Lowe. Breaking news here: Boston Celtics guard Peyton Pritchard has won the 6th Man of the Year. Nothing matters anymore. That's unfortunate. I don't know if you picked him, Nekias and Bond, but it's a sad day.
That's who I had number 1 on my fake ballot. We'll get a real one of these days, but he was really good, man.
I don't know. I don't like the Celtics. I mean, what's the guy in Detroit?
Malik Beasley.
There you go. I think he should have won. Did he play?
Had a case. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a treat for chat. Everybody was really happy. I was really happy because I got to talk with my friends. Nekias, please tell people where they can find you, what's coming up. You had a very special guest on your pod recently. I thought that was pretty exciting.
Yes, on the Young Man to 3 YouTube channel, where I'm still employed. Steve and I got to talk to Trey Murphy III. Got to react to some Game 1 stuff. So check that out if you'd like. Other than that, he's so freaking
great.
funny,
He's
dog.
great. I'm a big fan.
He's funny. So hopefully we're gonna get to do more of those throughout the postseason. So
Very
please
funny.
support, please watch. Beyond that, about to hop into watch playback, check out some playoff action. So join the Dunker Spot watch party rooms. Subscribe to the Dunker Spot podcast if you haven't already. Episode dropping later in the week. We're reacting to all of the homestand series. So analysis through the first 2 games of each series. We're going to tap in with that. Catch up on some news. The W season is rapidly approaching, so we're going to be digging into previews and stuff soon. A lot of basketball happening, and then Nekias NBA on all socials. So that is where I am at.
The best dude at Bond. Where can people find you, and what do you have coming up?
Boy basketball just has not been able to hold much of my attention. So I am still on the timelines and the things doing, bits and pieces of the things it is that I do. To Nekias' point, W season is kind of fast approaching. Maybe I have something in the works. Maybe I'm trying to dust off a relic or two. But I'm also really good for starting things and not really, sticking with things, perfectionism, all of those things. So we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't, get the best of me this time. But if not, at Siobhan Beslow on Twitter, I'm never calling it X.
Never. It's the only thing where I left a dead name.
Yeah. Oh, easy. On Blue Sky, same name with whatever else Blue Sky adds into a name. Yeah, man.
And I will see you tomorrow. And if you want the total opposite of what you got here, we have Alpha post game tomorrow. So all you got here, throw it out the window. Alpha on Sydney post game time, baby. And I like this one comment punctuating the show. We had a great show with 2 fantastic basketball minds. Somebody just goes, "This team sucks." I will see you tomorrow, people.